Welcome back. The fallout over Wells Fargo's phony account scandal continuing to grow, with the company announcing CEO John Stumpf will step down effective immediately. Joining us right now, the Wall Street Journal's chief economics correspondent, John Hilsenrath. John, you know, a lot of people were expecting this to happen because they figured, we haven't heard anything from Warren Buffett. Maybe Warren Buffett is saying, I'm not going to sell my stock, but something has to change here. What's your take?
Well, you know, I think this is the kind of accountability that people wanted to see after the financial crisis. It's happening 8 years too late. But basically, you know, we have his CEO here he had $41 million of compensation clawed back, and then he lost his job. And people were saying, why didn't that kind of thing happen to the CEOs of banks that got bailed out during the financial crisis? So I would say this is actually a step in the right direction in terms of how banks are overseen and how their boards are managed. Yeah,
but I mean, if you're talking about Tim Sloan coming in, right? He was the CFO. He was a leader in the company for a long time. How do investors need to see this, given that it's not like an outsider coming in? Is it the same culture?
Well, it's still the top guy who lost his job, and now so when Tim Sloan comes in, he's got to understand that his neck is on the line if the cultural problems persist in the place.
I think that's exactly right about the need for accountability, and I think this is a really good example. But I think you're right, that in the company, the culture is more important than the personnel, than the way policies are made. It's about what really is expected behavior. And I think that is what really needs to change. And I think appointing someone from the inside doesn't send that strong signal internally, and that's what really counts.
Yeah.
So,
John,
Maria, contrast that with the Deutsche Bank fine that's out today, $9.5 million for the way it's managing information disclosure in its equities unit. You know, people look at that and they say $9.5 million for a bank like that. That's you know, that's a couple of months of compensation for some of these top executives. I just don't think that cuts it in this day and age.
So thinking about how Elizabeth Warren just absolutely railed on the CEO of Wells Fargo, what do you think is going to happen now with a relationship with financial institutions? I mean, we know that there was just such a disdain for financial institutions. They were just rebuilding their reputation, and pharma was becoming the bad guy. Does this return us back to focusing on financial institutions?
Well, you know, I think what we saw happen to Wells is exactly what's going to happen to any CEO who seems to be stepping out of line, you know. So we saw the same thing happen with J.P. Morgan when the London whale trading incident happened. These CEOs are going to get hauled up before Congress and chewed out. And I think the Congress played a major role in driving him out in this case. You could argue about whether that's the appropriate role for Congress to play or not, but the fact of the matter is they are in the public glare. They're going to get paid a lot of money, but their necks are on the line if something goes wrong.
John, let's talk earnings for a second. S&P 500 earnings expected to be down 1% for the third quarter. Got a list here from S&P Capital IQ, Rich Peterson. Energy is going to be down 70%, telecom down 3%. What's your expectation for the third quarter earnings season, and what's priced into this market, John?
Well, you know, we see this strange thing where when energy prices rise, we see S&P 500 stocks rise, and that's because of that factor, because energy shares are under so much downward pressure from weak oil prices. You know, when OPEC a few days ago said that they were going to cut production, energy prices rose, and the stocks rose, and now that's all reversing itself.
All right, we'll leave it there. John, great piece in the Journal today about technology. Great to see you.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. John Hilsenrath joining us.